what I want to do today, I think, we all know so many good people who found a path, who found a way of devotion or practice to help them develop their spirit, strengthen their spiritual life. And I know from my own experience, people come from many different roads. So, one of the things I wanted to explore in today's meeting is I asked people to think a little bit about what was it? What was the moment? What was the urge? How did they begin to accept the spiritual path? How did they say, okay, I'm not going to chase money, I'm not going to chase fashion or cars or sports. I want to be a spiritual person because that takes a change of thinking, that takes a change of heart. And it's not always one straight road. Sometimes there's sidelines, there's new insights. But I wanted to talk, like I said, have you find people who I have so much respect for, who I know work very hard to be the best you can be. I want you to talk just a few minutes, say 5 minutes, about how you sort of got your nudge. How did you begin? What was the impetus? Was it a moment? Was it an insight? Was it a dream? Was it a vision? Or was it just an understanding? And that's saying just an understanding is a silly thing to say, but sometimes that's the impetus of it. So so that everybody knows who we're talking about, this is Alexandra Psaropoulou, Lantern Carrier. We've got Michael Panella and the lovely Saraswati Poswal, who hosts Sargam. And you all are involved in so many wonderful things. Michael has an amazing history both in the religious world as well as the peace activist world. And so I'm going to let you all talk, and I'm going to be quiet for a minute. And I'll tell my story last. Let me ask you, Alexander, would you talk a little bit about how you became interested, motivated, and begun your path of spirit?
Um, okay, I think that I was always like that. Like kind of just I was always very taciturn and quiet. At around 17, when I was at boarding school, I became almost ascetic, sort of just reading ascetic. You won't know because I died, yes, but it's a Greek ascetic writer, and I was just meditating all day long, and my classmates thought I was crazy, and not really spending much time, not wanting to go to parties and all that. But my English literature teacher was the only one who understood. I said, he said, "You're going to be a poet." He was the only one who said that when I was. So I was always, yeah, like very kind of unsociable person. So, and then the poetry came in early on, but it did not evolve as it has now into the flying series. But it was always with illustrations. It was always a long poem with illustrations and oil paintings. Um, but now it has evolved into something far more concrete. And as far as the spiritual path goes, yes, I have divided my day into half of it for work and half of it to spend on reading books and doing my esoteric work, because I can feel that that's something that I have been brought to earth to do, even if it's not that important. I mean, otherwise I would have been working more hours every day. So I did make that concession, um, for better or for worse. I don't know, because I am on the bread line most of the time. Um, I have had some very important defining visions in my life. I had one just before my sister left, and I just saw her looking like an angel in golden light, and she just looked like she was 17 or something, incredibly beautiful with golden hair. And I knew it was a message that she was leaving me because she had cancer. And after that, she would visit me every single night for 40 nights in my dream, which was a real comfort for me because she was my favorite sister. And every night we would talk. You would pass energy telepathetically. And on the last day, she said, "Now I have to go higher." And so I take it that she shed her etheric body as well. And we were not sad. We were waving goodbye, and I could see this white sort of amorphic shape flying upwards, and then I knew that she had gone somewhere higher, and her husband actually told me that she told him in his dream that she was in a beautiful place, very, very beautiful. I also had a vision of my husband kissing me goodbye when he left, and he also looked like he was in the first husband in an amazingly beautiful space full of light. I'll never forget those two visions. And I also remember the most recent vision was seeing that I was in a golden space full of light. My whole family was there, like me, my husband, and the husband I have now, and 4 children. And there was no anxiety there about anything. There was no anxiety about food or the house being built, rebuilt, or oh, I really have to market my books, but I don't know how to. There was just nothing. There was no anxiety. There was nothing going on. There were no flaws in our relationships. There was just everything was just in a beautiful golden light of calm and love, and the energies between us were being transmitted through our colored auras, and so we were exchanging colors between us, and that was just one of the last really prominent visions that I've had. Yeah, but I've always kind of been like that, listening to voices and.
Well, thank you.
But I just referred to the 3 most prominent ones.
Well, thank you
And
so much.
that's about it. And then the flying series, as you know, is just ongoing and ongoing. And I keep trying to surpass each one.
Well, luckily you're in no danger of the Icarus effect.
Well, no, I think I'm too. I don't think I'm. Yeah.
You're flying on your own wings. I think you're safe.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm too humble to kind of fly near the sun, but
Okay.
but maybe in my astric body, when I leave my body, I will fly around.
Okay. Thank you so much, dear. Wonderful to hear you. Brother Lantern, sir, can I ask you to share your thoughts? What kind of got you started, if you can put it that way, or maybe as Alexandra said, she was always that way, sir.
Well, I tend to note things down, and my writing here takes 2 minutes. It's called How I Found My Path, Stroke Journey. Unknowingly, my journey started as a young child growing up in the Caribbean. I would follow the evangelical preachers everywhere and long for an encounter with Jesus the Christ. No one else in the family was like me, and it puzzled me a little. At age 21, I traveled to the United Kingdom and gradually drifted away from religion until I was 30 years old. Sitting at home one day, I heard a noise downstairs as of something dropping through my letterbox. I went to see what was happening and found a large packet which had dropped to the floor. I picked it up, took it to the sitting room, where I opened it and started reading. I read till the end, as I was mesmerized and transformed at the same time. That day I experienced an inner ecstasy, which transformed my life. A week later, I went into a local newsagent and saw 2 books lying on a dusty old shelf. They were on sale at a cheap price, and I bought them both. One was called the Bhagavad Gita, as it is, by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And the second was called Paths to Tranquility by Peter Russell, a BBC correspondent. I read the latter first, found the paragraph on the path of love, devotion, and surrender by Sri Chinmoy with an address and telephone number. I rang the number, they invited me to the center, and the rest, as they say, is history. 43 years later, I am still with that spiritual order.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so very much. Beautifully said. Brother Michael, sir, could you talk a little bit about how you got on the path?
Yes. Like you alluded to, I grew up in a very religious family and Catholic family. And as a child, I saw that the local priests, especially the parish priests, the younger priests that I liked, I liked them. And I said, somehow myself, I said, he's got a good job. Everybody likes this guy. All right. And so by even talking that way or mentioning it, I served Mass more than anybody else did. And, at some point I must have said, of course, before I'm 13, maybe 10, 11, 12, I want to be a priest. So anyway, it all turned out, they sent me to a monastery in southern Indiana when I was 13 years old. And I ended up living there for 7 years. I went to another seminary to study for a foreign missionary organization called Maryknoll. Anyway, during that period of time at that secluded spot in the rural southern Indiana, one thing I sort of missed some of the negative stuff I would have likely had, or stuff that would have, I shouldn't say negative, distracting stuff. I would have been in a regular public high school in my little town in Western Pennsylvania. And so I didn't experience that. No TV, nothing, just there studying, a lot. And at one point in my college years, I joined a study group on civil rights. We had a black priest, and he had seminars. I had us read the newly produced letter from a Birmingham jail by Martin Luther King. It was just produced.
Yeah.
We read it and we discussed it. And I started getting involved in some of the civil rightsy stuff he was doing in this mostly white area, southern Indiana. So when I transferred to a school that was more liberal, and I realized the priesthood was not for me. And I went into Vista, worked in a black community for a year, saw the absolute racism expressed everywhere, and got to know the community there. At one point, I said I have to do more. Got arrested in the Martin Luther King's last demonstration, the Poor People's Can in Washington, D.C. All right, I was in jail for 3 weeks with all these poor folks of all demographics, right? Poor people. It didn't matter what your demographic was. If you're poor, you're poor. And at the end of that, instead of going to graduate school, which I thought I'd do, there was something about me that I realized I had to express this. All right, the brotherhood, because I was in the male part of the prison, I felt with these guys that I was arrested with, and I just had to do more. So I had gotten conscientious objector status for the Vietnam War, but I didn't have to do alternate service because I flunked my draft physical. So I joined an organization called People for Racial Justice that has just expanded everything for me. Right. I was involved physically, and I was told when I was in the black community, hey, you're doing something here, but the problem is with white folks. So, so I went to the suburbs of Philadelphia to deal with issues there. And that all led me to even more radical stuff, like you suggested. I broke into a draft boards to destroy draft files with again, sort of mostly Catholics, leftist people, but black and white and men and women. We burglarized buildings because at that point I was realizing there's more than just me, right? And so I did that and managed to do it without being arrested. But ultimately, uh, had to move out of Philadelphia because the heat was too much. But there was a book I read that my first wife it meant a lot to me. It was the book by Alan Watts. It's called The Book on the Taboo
Of
Against
knowing
Knowing.
yourself.
Yes. All right. Yes. So I read, because all my training was basically duality. This is this and this is that. This is good and this is bad. You know what I mean? So this brought it all together for me. I was totally amazed. She actually gave me the books, the only book she ever gave me to read. She handed it out to me.
That's quite a gift.
Well,
Quite a gift.
I think she knew I needed it. So I read it, and that meant a lot to me. And so ultimately, I ended up in Canada because the FBI was ultimately after me. But when I was there, uh, we split up, my wife and I. So here was this. I was seeing that love of her was the essence of my life. And I really didn't have a spiritual path, even after all of this. And I had to realize I had to experience that the essence of love in myself, not dependent on any other person or thing, no other, you might call distractions, right? Because ultimately it has to start off with love inside. And so I ended up getting involved with a group that practiced a meditation on breath meditation. And I did it in a disciplined way. I was in an ashram for 2 years. So there was, again, the whole group of us were focused on that. And so at one point, uh, and in the midst of all this stuff, I had an experience or two with LSD. So that sort of gave me a glimpse that there's something beyond what we see and what we touch, and it's just the fact you realize it's all one, right? It's all one, and so at that point, that was solid inside me. So I've been living my life as an activist, knowing that the meaning in my life somehow here we are, these little organisms on this little planet, and it's like this, the knowing of the totality is I think is somewhat impossible because whenever you say I know, you don't know, all right? And uh, it's like thinking uh, from a cosmic view that an ant has consciousness of something. Well, we have consciousness of something, but we're able to reflect in to get a glimpse of everything, and as much whatever that glimpse is, it's love. And so I've been living my life that way, and right now actually quite active, helping to protect migrants. We're giving, from my point of view, giving families a power of attorney. You just have to visualize myself that you're a family that's in terror, in trauma, because they have kids, right? And at any point, they could disappear, almost like somebody having an accident, a car accident, they could disappear. And what happens to their children? This is different because it's quite likely they're at certain risk of being abducted and deported. So anyway, so I'm expressing myself that way here is trying to have these families get rid of that grief, that trauma, and at least feel part of their life is secure with their children. So we're doing that, and of course everything else to try to bring love back into this country. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much. My dear Saraswati, could you talk a little bit about how you became very much on the spiritual path?
Yeah. My journey of being spiritual started when I was 6, 7 years old, young, very young child. As taught by the family, we are very Indians, we pray the idol prayers we do at home, and that kind of. So I was so alluring, and I got attracted with those statues and all. I always kept going in the temple and at home also. Yeah, once or twice, like my mother or father, they used to do the puja and everything. So I learned from them, being there attached with the God and something like that. So it became my habit totally. Nobody asked me to do this thing and that thing. That was like it was in the family, but they were not regular about all those prayers and meets and everyone. I was so punctual. I just came to know, and I wanted to from it became my habit, uh, doing prayers at myself, and I kept learning all those prayers and those books, and they were on my tips. Once I read those, so that was inherited, and I go through everything, Ramayana, epic books, every book I've read. So it was from childhood, that instinct came to me. No one was teaching me properly, you have to do this way, or it was I was learning it through myself. Then got married. There also my family, they were not so spiritual or pujari kind of family. They were okay. Uh, if somebody does the puja or prayers at home, it's okay. Otherwise, no. But I was so punctual, so regular. It became in my habit, because before going anywhere out, offering food to God or something, water, food, and praying for everything. Then I started my work at home. This became my habit since childhood. Now till the date I am like this. So whenever I wake up early in the morning, 6, 7 o'clock, after doing yoga, meditation, everything, then I go and pray, and it regularly became habit. But once it happened, my father left us, and he went he also had a heart failure, and after 32 years, my husband left in the same way. That same pain I saw, that grief came to me again back. Because, when we take the things or life very easy, and we just keep on enjoying, and we forget those blessings of God, I think so, sometime, like within a few minutes or moments, I guess. Otherwise, I never said thanks to God. Maybe I would have somehow, I feel like those days return back to us, because if we forget those painful days, they come back to you. You can say our karma or whatever, I don't know. It's so their karmas are there. Karma is there definitely. That comes back to us. But yes, once you go through the pain, you learn more. Again, you start that same journey, because once you learn to believe in God or yourself, your spirit, you have to keep yourself high. When you trust God, God is there. There's supreme power in any way you count it, either with the idol or anyhow. If I'm not sitting now, I'm not sitting in front of any idol or something, but yes, I know there is an inner power which is taking me, and now I can see everything. Once I'm sleeping or I'm awake, or I'm like, yes, this is going to happen this way, this is going to happen this way. Like God shows you the path, and this spiritual journey is going on, and some good things are coming, some bad are coming. Then, if bad are coming, you have to accept them, and you have to let those things go out. I have learned a lot that once we leave the things, things come back to us, they bounce back in a good way. Like if we keep on holding those things, that they will keep giving us the pain, and if you'll not come out of that trauma, you will never come out, because that pain will hurt others also in the family. So the spiritual journey of being attached to some supreme powers, it's very helpful, and it leads you anyhow. So I believe in being that, and try to be humble, and you know try to help people as much as I can. I'm working with some NGOs, anywhere wherever I go, I try to be helpful with all. That's all humanity, and that works. And this journey is counted, I feel like, instead of collecting money, assets, and yeah, I think that this is your real asset. If you're helping someone, you're going somewhere out, and you find somebody who requires something and you help them. That's the most important thing, because those things come back to you. And yeah, it happens and miracles happens with those only, because I've never stood anywhere in any scarcity or anything, because I get the things at the proper time. Everything, my all works are done. That's all because of my kind heart, I feel so. Because if I'm doing it good for others, then good people comes to me and they help me, and that way, that way becomes, definitely you get the way from any of your, if you're stuck anywhere, you will definitely find the way. So this is your best journey. You have to be spiritually attached with the God. And when we are meditating, and like Alexandra told you everything, and Michael sir, Landon, you people are also experiencing the same thing. That's why we are here together. Everyone is meant to be. It's not by chance or by accident we are here. We are solely connected. We know each other from last, maybe some other births, and that's why this connection comes. And we want to know. We are still learner, I count, and we will be the learner. We can't say I have learned a lot, I don't need any knowledge. No, knowledge doesn't have any end. Will be the learner till the end of the day. Till that time we'll be learning. So I believe in learning, and we should keep on learning, and this journey keeps on going.
Well,
That's
thank
it.
you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Oh, you're very welcome. This is the perfect introduction for my comments, because very much I am aligned with what you were saying. My first significant insight, I was a very sickly toddler. When I was just 2 or 3 years old, I was very sickly. I had trouble breathing. I had pneumonia. And we lived in a very small place, and both my parents smoked cigarettes, which probably didn't help matters any. And so I ended up in the hospital a lot. And when you're very young and you're in the hospital alone over the long days and long nights, you can feel pretty sorry for yourself. So I felt pretty darn sorry for myself, right? I had a bad deal. This was terrible. How could this happen to me? And I just sort of felt I was there. That was where I was. I was just very sad. Well, something happened that absolutely changed my entire experience. And it may very well have been that's why I was there, to learn that. But what happened was, late one night, and my parents hadn't had a chance to visit, so I'd been alone for a long day and night. Well, they wheeled a little girl into my room. And like me, she was in a crib-like device, but her crib had bars over the top. It was literally a cage. And she was screaming and crying, and her, you would have to be a monster not to be touched by how deep her hurt was. So I thought, maybe if I sing to her, maybe if I sing and talk to her, maybe I can help her feel a little better. Maybe she can get past this. Maybe she might realize she's not alone. So I did. I sang to her, I talked to her, and little by little she calmed down. And then literally we had a good evening together. Okay. It was that powerful effect, that much change. And I realized, even at that point in my little life, that you can feel better if you help someone else feel better. It was a startling, amazing fact that I realized. And I as I look back, it's something that had a lifelong effect on me. And while I am a person often given to melancholy, often thinking about the way civilization fails so often, the way people so often miss the important part of life. It can make one sad. But I have learned the cure that if you try to help someone, quite often you'll feel better too. So when I was just a little kid, I'm an avid reader. I love history. I love science. So I would have, while I was in elementary school, classes in my parents' basement. I would teach about science. I would teach about history. We read the Iliad and the Odyssey to my childhood friends. You could say born teacher. Well, I can't disagree. And then another thing happened, and this was the course that set me off for the rest of my life. Like you, Saraswati, religion in the family wasn't a big deal. It wasn't so important. But we were what I called Sunday Catholics. On Sundays, it was important to go to the Mass. That was important. Now, it dawned on me that I knew people who went on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They went an extra time. They went to extra confessions. They did extra, all that extra stuff. And I thought, well, that's a little excessive, but I really I wanted more than being a Sunday Catholic. And this is elementary school, first few years. Well, in Catholicism, just like in the Jewish faith, there is a rite of passage. There is when you transition from youth, I'm not telling you anything, Michael, you get confirmed. You get your confirmation. You take on a new
I love
name.
it. I love it, Rick.
Well, mine was particularly memorable, and I'll tell you why. It seemed odd to me that the children that I knew that were the altar boys that served in Mass, they were not the nicest people. And it seemed to me that there was a difference between what people said and what they did. And there was this big, big gap. Well, the next thing that troubled me was my parents' concern, for my young soul, sent me to Catholic religious training. I went to public school, but Catholic school for religious training. And I was the kid that asked too many questions. I it seemed to me when such a big deal is made out of the crucifixion. Okay, I get that. It was bad. It was terrible. It was torture. Absolutely terrible, terrible thing. But of all the things to memorize, of all the things to focus on, this man did so many wonderful things, or this God man did so many wonderful things. To focus on that moment of pain seemed to me to miss the point. Then the other thing, this is what really troubled me about the church proper, the big institution of the church, was I didn't see much Christ-like behavior. I knew Christ the teacher as a guy who would wash your feet. Okay? This is not a man who wore ornate hats, wonderful golden robes. This was not a man who was any of that. He was the simple one. He was oh no, humble, washing the feet of his followers. And so I thought it was out of sync. What they said, what they pretended to believe, and what they practiced was very different. Well, so at one point I asked the question, I said, so look, if you're a being of infinite lifespan, what's 3 days of torture? Okay, it's not even a blip. It's not, in the grand scheme of, well, needless to say, I got thrown out of class for asking questions like that, and that was not the only one I asked. So consequently, I missed a very important lesson. When they were preparing us for confirmation, we're learning things, and okay, this happens, and you do that, and this happens, and you do that. Well, I missed an important part of it. At the conclusion of your blessing, when you are now a young man in the church, you were supposed to kiss the bishop's ring. Now, I hadn't heard that. I didn't know that. And it seemed to me, when I did hear it, that this was antithetical to anything that Jesus would do. And the other thing that really troubled me, and no one would answer, I would say, when they announce as part of the church teachings that unless you were born and baptized Catholic, you're going to hell. And many of us know there are different religions that either accept that there's other paths and some that don't accept that there are the only path. And that seemed to me to be cruel at best. And I thought that if I wouldn't do that, and I'm not God, I'm just a person. If I wouldn't treat people that cruelly, why would they say that God would do that? That just seemed to me very ungodlike, and it sounded like, people who wanted to control you rather than people who wanted to know that you were blessed. Just because you were blessed. You're a child of God, and that the messages were not aligned, right? Well, so I'm in this brand new church. Beautiful church, big stained glass windows, the light shining through in all these colors, and everybody's being, really spiritual. As I'm in this long line, and I'm an S, so Rick Spisak is at the end of all these other names. So I'm watching these children. They get their blessing, then they're kneeling down. I'm like, what? Oh my God, they're kissing that guy's ring. Holy smoke! They're kissing his ring? What the heck? This is not like Jesus. Jesus would say, please, can I wash your feet? Please, sit, be comfortable. Let me hit. No. So this guy in a big old funny hat and all these ornate robes and stuff, he wants you to kiss his ring because he's really spiritual. I was unconvinced, right? And I thought, wait. There's no way that what are you going to do? Explain yourself? Sorry, that's not going to work. So I thought the smart thing would just be go through it, do it, kiss the guy's ring, move on. It'll take a second. Don't worry about it. But this funny thing happened. I'm in my head. I can see Tom Jefferson, a human liberty person, John Adams, who said, we don't kneel to kings or princes or priests. We don't do, that's not required of human beings. Human beings, each one is divine. Each being is spiritual. Each being is blessed by God. You don't need their approval. You are you. God made you. And if that's not special enough, then go wear a funny hat. I don't care. So when it was my turn, and believe me, I felt very spiritual. I felt that I got something important from church, from God, from religion, from the Bible, from the teachings of Jesus. I felt that. But this seemed wrong. So he puts his hand up in front of my face, and I shook it. Okay, thanks. This was not what he wanted. He felt that he was being affronted by this little kid. And so in case I was not clear on the concept, he put his hand in front of my face again. And in a voice that no religious person should ever use, he said, kiss it. Well, sorry, that's not going to work. So I shook his hand again. Well, in front of the entire church. Now we're talking 400, 500 people. Everybody I knew, everybody my family knew. I had family members out in the audience. My father's one of 9. We had a lot of relatives out there. In front of everybody, he orders me out of his church. Well, I knew the word excommunication. I knew what that was supposed to mean. But at the same time, in my heart, I felt I had done the right thing. So I took a vow. And I said I would read every holy book I could. I would study every book that God gave man and woman. to help us understand our place in the universe. So I read the Ramayana, the Upanishads, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, lots of books by Alan Watts, lots of books by Ram Dass, and I try to do more, and the Quran, I try to do more than just read it. I tried to bring it into my heart. And at the same time in the world, there's these Middle Eastern wars and people are officially hating this one and that one. And I would say to people who I thought were serious, because if the ones that aren't serious, I didn't worry about them. But when these people who thought of themselves as Christian or thought of themselves as Catholic would talk about hating Jews and how it was easy to hate, oh my God, it's easy to hate. I would say, I dare you to open the Bible and open the Quran and find a difference. Because a spiritual book is a spiritual book. We all need food and shelter and love, and we need to care about each other. And you will find that same thing in all of those books. Now, yes, certain dietary things or certain rules, or clothing. Yeah, sure, of course. But the central message is always the same. And that led me to meditation. That led me to exploring different techniques to develop spirituality and that part of the mind. So I've been a student ever since.
Hey, brother.
So now I want to open the floor to have anyone who wants to comment on these marvelous stories, these wonderful evolutions, these tales of acquired wisdom. Who would like to start? Alexandra, do you want to say something, dear?
Yeah, I would hear Lion Dog again.
Ah!
This can be done by Richard sir only. No one else can do this. This evolutionary person.
Well, maybe we'll do a poem if you all would like to. I don't want to be the only one. But I was wondering if anybody wants to comment on some of these wonderful stories.
Well, one thing I want to say, this is the first exercise like this that I've ever had, even though there's just a few of us, for folks who have different backgrounds, right? Different experiences, different paths, to share what they're sharing, what they've learned about life and the importance of experiencing whatever truth is in this life. And that first is the first thing. And it's great to listen to everybody's, story, their personal story. And mine, in some ways, is similar to Rick's, except he was way ahead of me, starting off at 3 years old and learning empathy, and that it was a cure. And it's kind of the way I feel too. Like sort of like having that mainly is expressing the reality that we're all in this together. And there's a quote that the Beatles made. He said it was in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. That was in one of their songs. And I think that's the important thing, because if you live not loving, you're not going to experience it. And not to be selfish about it, but to know that that's what we're driven to do because we have human consciousness. Okay. But anyway, all of your stories are great, and thank you so much for expressing them.
Okay. Well, I was going to say that one of the prompts was about challenges and how we cope with them. And I have to say that I've had my fair share, like everyone else. And I also have to say that I have found challenges extremely difficult to cope with. It's not that I feel like I have extra strength or power to cope with losing loved ones or having your house burnt down or just a lot of simple even fewer, to a lesser degree, challenges. They've all been pretty devastating on me. I think I'm pretty sensitive. Even just this past year was difficult for me because I had lots of migraines. I had a court case, and I really can't handle stress so easily. I'm someone who wants peace and quiet and a sense of safety and peace. So the challenges that I have to face and have faced are fewer than children dying in the war, parents losing, I can't even, I look at the atrocities and I can't just grasp exactly, how we're thrown into this world, three-dimensional world of antinomy. And I think that most people, in order to be able to philosophize about the situation of reality, they grasp onto the higher dimensions that we all believe in, and that surely leaving this world it will be a mystical experience into much higher dimensions, and this is a trial, and we're learning here, and we just obviously can't just believe and don't want to believe that this reality is all there is to our human existence or any other kind of existence. So the challenges are very difficult to kind of to kind of deal with, and they'll always be there because we are in a three-dimensional world. So we all grasp onto something higher and beyond. And that can just be our saving point, I guess. And that's what we all try and focus on and pin our hopes on. And some get a few more glimpses than others, maybe. But eventually, I guess we'll all get a full big glimpse, just like Brother Raoul kept asking about, the pearly gates. And I mean, we're all trying to get some glimpses of the beyond, basically.
Thank you. Lantern, I was going to ask you, you get a chance, or you've taken the opportunity to spend time in a formally spiritual community these days. Could you talk about the benefits and some of the challenges of that?
One begins with a perception, a concept of what you might call an ultimate reality or consciousness. Without the sense of purpose, there's no sense in moving forward. So when you enter the path for yoga philosophy or any path, there's a sense of what we might call God or Allah or consciousness. And that is how we all start. And we see this consciousness as all pervading. We see ourselves as an aspects or instruments of this divine consciousness. It is only one. And that we are essentially souls or sparks of this divine consciousness. And we see the temple or the body as an instrument or conduit of that consciousness. We see the purpose of the soul as being here to manifest that consciousness and to gain experiences in the act of manifesting this consciousness. And that ultimately we return home through the process of reincarnation and evolution at the same time. There's a self-transcending consciousness. So we begin with that, and everything you do basically in life is like a movement towards that consciousness. And that consciousness is made of infinite parts, and you can call one part light, you can call one part darkness, but they're interwoven. You can also call it love. You give it different names, but I was trying to say you begin with a concept. Without the concept, without the sense of purpose, it is very difficult to move forward. And it's like doing a plan in an organization. Having established that, then you bring in things like the basic fundamentals of scriptures: empathy, compassion, discipline, prayer, silent prayer, meditation. Prayer is both verbal and silent. What we call sadhana, meaning spiritual practice, or what in Islam they call ibadah, meaning worship. So you rise in the morning and the first thing on your mind or your heart perhaps is gratitude. Then you sit at your shrine or your altar and you try to go into that silent prayer or that verbal and silent prayer for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And then you do whatever you're doing, your ablutions in the house, and then you head to work. But there is a connection. Nothing is really separate. Your gratitude, your prayer life, your meditation, everything is connected, interwoven as you go towards your duty in the world in which you serve. And that becomes, spirituality becomes life itself, the practice, it's life itself. So you're moving forward and you stumble, but like Maya Angelou, you pick yourself up again and you keep going. It's an ever transcendent game. This is how I've understood it. It's not static. I grew up in a Christianity where I thought of God as being static. There's a goal which is static. Maybe there's a man who looks a little bit like Rick with a long white beard. And if I'm going to go up there to meet him in a geographical place called heaven. The yoga philosophy is very different. Consciousness is omnipresent, meaning it's everywhere. It's omnipotent, meaning it's all powerful, and it's omniscient, meaning it's all wise, it's all wisdom, it's all knowledge, and it's always here. And the question arises as to how do you tap into it? So life is basically a process of making ourselves receptive enough to tap into this grace which is always present. And that brings us back to the fundamentals I talk about. Am I empathetic enough? Am I disciplined? Am I practicing the prayer life? Is there compassion in my nature? The basics. People skip over the fundamentals. You see kind of semi-naked girls on Instagram who try to tell you how to awaken your kundalini or open your third eye. Is like missing the point. Am I pure enough? Am I kind enough? Am I good to my neighbor? The basics, essentials of spirituality are all in scriptures. So when I run into those who say, oh, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious, and I stand back, and there's a reason for saying it, but at the same time, the fundamentals are within scriptures, east or west. So, and they do help us. And there's a point where we can go beyond that, but there's a point also when we need that. Everything is interwoven. I never try to separate life. I see the holistic nature of things. I call everything consciousness. Light, shadow, negative, everything is happening. There's a divine plan, I sometimes call a higher intelligence, which is moving in the heart of Donald Trump, and is moving in the heart of Putin, is moving in the heart of Benjamin Netanyahu, and sometimes you would have light and sometimes you'd have darkness, but they're interwoven. And the historians tell you they can look back and see that, every 300 years, empires changes. And then they think, okay, man is doing this, the man is doing that. But there is a high intelligence, call it love, which is responsible for everything and works in cycles. And when the time comes, it changes. And our duty, I think, as the instruments of spirit is to be as receptive as we can. We all branches on the life tree of love, but the branches are different. Each one is a different evolutionary stage. I think of it as rungs of a spiritual ladder. But you can also think of it as unpeeling the layers of an onion. Some onions are more unlayered than others, And
but some just make you cry.
Yeah. It's all necessary. It's like Maria today saying, oh, my poem is not so good as everybody else. She has a unique part to play also in whatever she's doing. Everybody is unique. And we are where we're meant to be at any given moment to share what we are sharing. So Michael, being an activist and being sent to jail, has a specific lesson for him. I haven't had that experience, but that is the path he was meant to travel. So nothing is without meaning or purpose.
Thank you, sir. Saraswati, let me ask you, I'm sure you'd considered getting further involved in different spiritual communities. What do you see the benefits and the weaknesses of, living in an ashram or living a fully monastic life?
What I observed is the similarity. Like in any of the community, in any of the religion, what I found is the basic, thing for spirituality is love is needed. If we are not loving the things, the people, anything, we can't do. Even in this today's world, people are so loving actually, but they don't want to express. They love their phone, they love their specs. Without them, they can't watch. They love their phone so much. So, if we start being, instead of being practical with the things it's useful, we start loving those things. They will definitely give us more and more and more. Phone is giving so much. Media, everything, net is going. So many things are there now. Everything is on the phone. So we love the phone so much. In the same manner, if we humans will start loving human, respect and love, if we respect them, then definitely this whole world, whole planet will change. And we are trying with our words, peace poems, and we are spreading for this and that. If we start loving and respecting each other, there will be a peace on earth, and everything will be fine. There is no, no religion teach us to be, to separate or something. Every religion teaches to be one, and that oneness language is, it's very unique. And I found it everywhere, because I reside everywhere. I go everywhere, in temple, church, as well as I've been to every place. I love going. If I get the opportunity, तो साई मंदिर है, इधर है, तो I go everywhere. I feel like I collect those positive vibes from there, those energies. You definitely gain. In the same manner, if we people will start interacting with each other, and instead of collecting the assets, things, material, then there will be a lot of change. And very few people understand this, I guess.
Thank you so very much.
It's
I really appreciate the
really.
fact that you stayed up so late to come and join us.
Thank
Very
you
kind
so
of you.
much.
If I
Thank
can
you.
add, if I can add to that, I
Sure,
thought you
Mike.
asked for a
Sure.
little bit about the monastic
Mm.
or the celibate life. In the
Mhm.
mystical philosophy, there is I was speaking of rungs of the spiritual law. There's a certain stage of the journey where celibacy becomes important, and it's important because the semen itself changes into what we call ojas and goes up into the pineal and helps the mystical experiences. There's a part of the psyche that need to be strong enough to hold on to the mystical experiences, and the internal energy of ojas. Ojas it becomes an energy field, helps very much in the process of mystical experiences. And that is why self-control has been taught in so many philosophies, and that's why celibacy means purity in word, speech, and thought, even in the dream state. Physical purity, obviously, but inner purity is even more important. And as we become more celibate, more self-controlled, that inner energy goes up into the higher aspects of the psyche and the chakras and helps us with the spiritual experiences. In fact, Sri Chinmoy teaches that before complete brahmacharya, one cannot realize God. One has to become so pure to draw the higher energy. Complete purity is essential.
Thank you. Thank you. Michael, I was going to ask you about your experience living in a spiritual community.
Living where?
In a spiritual community,
Oh,
your monasteries and stuff.
To follow what was just said, celibacy was, of course, is expected from priests. And as a child, I mean, I went into the seminary. I was prepubescent, already obviously deciding I was going to be celibate. But it's interesting because what was just said makes perfect sense to me, to take on that self-control, which has never been discussed. Any of the Catholic circles I was in, even being in the seminary 8 years, and all the priests I know, it's just basically you're giving something up, and you have really not sure quite why. Otherwise, you could always think politically why it's there, but you know what I mean? I mean, I certainly understood. I think it was the first time it was explained to me that I see that it's a discipline that brings you closer. So anyway, but otherwise, my spiritual path in the seminary was sort of I stayed as long as I did because I had friends there. I mean, like brothers. We slept together, played together, worked, did everything together. We weren't home with the boarding school, and somehow I liked it. Many of them left. I mean, I started at 13. I left when I was 21, and but it was some of that experience with the black priest that I knew that when I was probably 19, 20 years old, that sort of just got me out of myself, right? And so that was kind of the essence of it. Of course, that is what, the essential essence of Christianity, except, I really never saw it practiced much myself, other than my parents were good. They belonged to the St. Vincent de Paul Society. They were generous people. So I wasn't taught to be selfish. Let's put it that way. So, uh, so, uh, so it was really when I left the seminary. It had sort of a grounding there that the spiritual experiences I said I had after the fact occurred, and uh, uh, so that's mainly it. It was because I look back. I just went to a 50th anniversary, not 50th. I'm about 80, so I went to a reunion a couple of months ago of seminary friends of mine who were my age, my classmates, and out of the bunch that are still alive, uh, there's about 75, 80 of us who are on a listserv, and I'm saying that there wasn't any particular magic there that happened because most of these guys are really not connected like I discovered I am, and sort of reaching out and being active, and so it's it was kind of interesting. Actually, I've been having an email with a bishop who's a classmate of mine. I encouraged him to to say something about Pope Leo's, uh, uh, objection to Latinos and people of color being abducted, and this is prior to the actual Council of Catholic Bishops in the United States, right, putting out a message after this. So the bishops told me in an email, I don't know what specific to do. He sort of agreed with me. Then 2 days later, he said, I just got this. It was an order from the United States Council of Catholic Bishops. He sent me the letter that said to bishops only. He copied what he got, and it was a call to action. All right. The whole thing was a call to action to do something about what the Trump administration is doing. So that was like, pick me up. All right. Pick me up. And at that point, I had communicated I was going to talk to everybody on the email listserv about what I'm doing, and just if they have any questions to contact me, whatever. But then I've just recently decided I'm not. He mentioned my name a couple times in his email to the whole group, so they know they can email me if they want information. So anyway, my and the Catholic Church here is actually the most active group who's working on this stuff. So
Wonderful.
my opinion, it's not like it was bad, but it was elevated about what Catholics can do if they follow the essence of Jesus's teaching. So anyway, so that's this is all flowing from me basically walking away completely from any religion at all and just following my own personal path. As soon as I got out of the seminary, the month after I left my black robes behind, I didn't consider myself a Catholic anymore. So really, it was that fast. And but You know, I see the potential because if people really like even the priests that I was involved in nuns where we destroyed draft files, they took it all very seriously. You know, they put their you know, we put our long-term jail sentence would have come with this. So I was attracted to that, even though I was not a Catholic anymore. They knew that I had been.
Yeah.
So
Thank
anyway,
you.
yeah, anyway, so that's basically it.
Thank
So
you, sir.
yes.
Alexandra, let me ask you, I don't know if you were involved in any formal religious community per se. I'm sure most of your religious thinking has been done alone with you and your soul. But do you have any reaction to the discussion about religious or spiritual communities?
Yeah, so I'm generally of the opinion that, I'm sorry, I don't have a very good impression of religions.
Oh, that's quite all right. There's certainly room for criticism. I was about to criticize some ashrams. I'll get to it. Don't worry.
So, many years ago, in a kind of Greek sect which was very focused on Pythagoras and ancient Greek philosophers and mystics, but I decided that I don't like to be part of any kind of sect or cult or religion, and I just kind of follow my own inner guidance on that. Uh, I think religions are too fraught with the desire for control and power, and I don't want anyone telling me what I'm going to think or feel or yeah, and so
There's a
I don't
wonderful old Groucho Marx quote. I don't want to belong to any club that would have me as a member.
yeah, I mean I sort of sloped off very very politely from that sect, and so I really don't like to belong anywhere really. But at the same time, I do believe we're all part of a grand scheme, and that the Hollow movement is picking in momentum, and that a lot of wonderful and advanced souls are helping in this momentum. I just don't know how many thousands of years it's going to take for us to evolve to the kind of level that everyone wants to be at.
Slow learners sometimes, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I had some interesting ashram experiences myself. The idea of repetitive, regular practice is good. Group practice has all kinds of merit. Meditation practices work best in groups. Group chanting is marvelous, and the energy that you can experience from that is really wonderful. But I had some very curious experiences. The first intentional ashram community that I got involved with, um, I was some of us worked, some of us did other consultation and stuff to support the temple. And I came home one day from work, and three of my friends who tried, I'm going to say tried sometimes too hard to be spiritual, they were standing next to another friend who really basically lived there because he needed a place to shelter himself, his wife, and his child. And they were standing there where he was cooking, and they were chanting poison, poison, poison because he was cooking meat, because he was not a vegetarian like they were. And therefore, they were trying, I suppose, if you give him the benefit of the doubt, they were trying to encourage him to evolve beyond being a meat eater. But instead, what I saw was these were people condemning when they should be blessing his food. And I took great exception to that. And I said, if you believe in the power of chanting, if you think that chanting energy does something, then for crying out loud, bless the man's food. Bless what he's doing to nourish his family. Do not think you are somehow helping by chanting poison over his food, for crying out loud. And so I took exception to that. And then uh, at a different ashram, there were people who were very, I mean, to say they were strict vegetarians really doesn't get there. They believed that if you even heated your food, that was bad because heat equals devil equals bad equals evil. I thought that was just silly. But I try to appreciate everyone's belief system, whatever nonsense they want to believe. God bless them, go in peace. Until they start, trying to enforce their rules on everybody in their place. So that's where I took exception. But one day, I guess after a month or two of hearing them yammering all the time about, oh God, don't cook your food. Oh God, it's got to be raw. It's got to be raw. And of course, vegetarian. Well, one day I was looking for something. I don't even remember what it was. And I opened a closet door and there were three of them. The three most adamant, the three most angry vegetarian non-cooking types. They're sitting in this closet together eating candy bars. Well, candy bars were not on their strict dietary list. So, not wanting to find fault, I hoped instead to maybe suggest a certain ironic nature to their current feast. And I said, well, this is most interesting. I am quite surprised to see that you have added candy bars to your acceptable list of food. They go, oh, no. Well, see, what you don't understand, this is called a freak out. Every once in a while, we just have a freak out. And we go get burgers or I'm like, yeah, please lecture somebody, again, in my presence, about strict dietary rules.
Right.
Crying out loud. But
I'd like to say that I was vegetarian for 10 years and I was losing my energy, my teeth. From a medical aspect, we are all omnivores.
yes.
And so my friends and my holistic doctor started saying, please start eating some meat. And they are very spiritual friends. And finally I got started 20 years ago, and all my energy returned, my health returned. I'm totally off the vegetarian vegan thing. I'm sorry.
Well, I can understand eating food that's good, eating food that's not poison, eating food that's organic. I totally get that. But I'm also aware of an ancient teaching that said it's not what you put into you that pollutes you. It's what you put out into the world. That's what pollutes you. And I think that's very wise. And I want to say thank you, my dear, wise, spiritual friends. Thank you so much for joining me for this discussion. Does anyone want to make any final comments about being guided to spirituality, being guided to your own practice, your own study, whether it's in an edifice of religion or individually finding your way to that sacred center? Any final comments? Let me ask you first, Alexandra.
Oh, that's weird. I said it's just an ongoing journey. I mean, in the next life we'll continue and again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And the Dalai Lama does eat meat.
Saraswati, my dear, you want to have any final thoughts? Not yet.
Yeah. So can you repeat, please? Yeah.
I was just wondering if you have any final thoughts as we wrap up today.
What? That's I'm very small to say everything because people are more experienced, and I've been listening to everyone very nice, wonderfully. You all have been telling me, and everything I've heard about the religions being spiritual from your all the stories and everything. It was wonderful. We need to walk, and it's our perception, the way we take the things, and the way we take the people. It's all about your learning, your sanskar. I mean, whatever you have learned from your childhood, the way you learned and the way you carry on. It depends on the human, and it becomes a human nature by the age we grow older and older. But yes, If we want to change ourselves, that day, that time you are born and brought up, you should feel yourself self young, and you can change. And your one thing, thoughts, one process of thinking can change the whole world and the whole system. So we should, I think, we should take the steps of helping people with the to be spiritual, being loving to everyone, and instead of going, if okay, it's the other thing, you want to be religious with the things or material or anyway, that's the different thing, because those who want to get provoked by those things, they get, and those who stay, because this process goes from in your inner instinct takes you the way you want to, like I'm sitting here, I'm talking to you, but yet that meditation was going in, the things were going in, my thought process was not stopped, that thing keeps on going in every individual and from every person. So it's all upon the yes, whole society. If we can educate them and we can teach them, if we can help one person, can help the another one, in that way we can change whole world.
Thank you
That's
so
my,
much. Thank
thank
you
you
so
so,
very much.
thank you so much.
Okay. Michael, sir, any final comments?
I just want to thank y'all for being here right now. And uh, this is, again, like I said, this is a sort of a special experience for me. And so it's like being sort of, if you want to use the word communion, because it's a community, a little community we just had here sharing our deepest feelings about just being alive. I just want to thank you. And Rick, thank you for organizing this.
My
Yeah.
pleasure, brother. My honor to have such fine souls here together.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Lantern, sir, could you speak to us about any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'll just take a minute to just say something which I think it's crucial, and then I'll read you a short sonnet poem. We say that there is only one guru, and the guru is within. So irrespective of what I tell you or anyone tells you, there's an inner pilot which is guiding you, and it may guide you towards vegetarianism. It may guide you towards the life of desire. If you guided to the life of desire and you suddenly decide you want to be a monk, it won't work. The soul is guiding you according to your own nature and maturity, and it is the responsibility of the individual soul to listen to the inner guru, not to anyone else. The fundamentals, the practice is necessary, but the guru inside guides accordingly, and people are guided differently. One may be guided to becoming an activist, another one to philanthropist. Diversity is very necessary, and the laws they say it's like a dance, and that dance is making you use the step which is necessary for you. Somebody else uses a step which is necessary for them. There's so many steps in this dance of creation, but the guru is inside. Sometimes we talk about the voice of conscience. It's nothing other than the voice of your inner pilot guiding you constantly. And as long as you pray and meditate and allow the voice to guide you, it would show you the right path. Now, let me read that short poem for you. It's called Meditation. Mind still, calm, serene, and vacant. I'm transported by the soul's beauty into the inner realm of deep tranquility and vastness. It's like being entranced on the bed of the ocean where everything is hushed, silent, peaceful. On the surface, there's a multitude of waves, but I'm in an aquamarine realm of sweet solitude. I reach out to my lover, my essence filled with the breath of an ambrosial wine. Tears flow from my inner sanctum, orchestrated by a bliss celestial, merging into the pangs of humanity's deepest sorrows. From the depth of a nameless void, I speak to my beloved in silence. Fully prostrated, palms outstretched in reverence, I entreat, "O love, please accept my prayerful tears as a token offering on behalf of your creation. I feel a flowering of my being merging into the singer of my songs. We become one, beating the cadences of love's victory with heaven's supernal gong. Receptive to the wings of love, I pay homage to the one in the deep stillness of the heart's peace, the unspoken sweetness in the profundity of my soul. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Rick.
Thank you so much. I will share the one poem that my dear Alexandra asked me to read, and I want you to know that it has been such a blessing that you would join me to talk about something so serious and yet so wonderful and so bright. This is a poem I've written. It came from a dream, and I'm going to share the screen so you can read along if you'd like. The dream that took place. I had asked for an initiation dream, a blessing dream, and so often I am honored to say that I do receive them from time to time, as I'm sure everyone here does. This is called the Temple Lion Dog. Flying o'er the temple zounds, I watched the sacred lion dog roam the garden fair and temple grounds beyond compare. His patrols punctuated with barks and growls. I watched in interest from high above because you see that this lion dog was also me. During his training to patrol the temple grounds, he'd been given special barks charmed with sacred magic sparks. Every bark a prayer. His barks profound, these sigils gleamed and glowed in air, his full power beams unbounded blare. Sacred barks, these powers made, few sounds profound commandeth any shade. Few are aware of the subtle war that shrieks just beyond the temple door. That shrieks sweet in the temple soul, seeks solace, sanctuary, peace. Such glory is only part of the story, so far incomplete. Deep sounds profound, rich in power bound, the lion dog protects the souls that come for sanctuary amidst the scrolls. Much more than solace, a palace so bright, a torch in the deep in the sacred temple light. Yet, just outside, sometime wicked ghouls would disturb the treep of souls who need the temple's sacred peace. The lion dog protects and guards the deep. While I flew or observed and watched, this lion dog patrolled and never stopped. My vantage point soared from high or spread and suddenly pivot, peering, darting deep inside the lion dog's head. I watched as dangerous spirits drifted past, almost to dare, and tried at last against the temple walls and gardens pierce, had not the lion dog there been so fierce. As lion dog, I strolled the garden's border, warned them off, sure they'd spawn some macabre disorder. Some might scoff as I watched the lion dog drive them off. These drifting spirits mischief sought would float by, dreaming lest the lion dog stop. The lion dog barked and warned them away. They'd flee his massive jaws. These shades would shriek before his awesome law, keeping demons from the grounds. This guardianship was more powerful than mortal eye might see or any mortal ear bear the sound. Which shades these wizards sent to the temple to dissemble, that thereby acolytes might shriek and tremble, though the enemies of the temple crow and bray. That's why our patrolling lion dog in his sacred voices say, we are trained for courage, and on sacred blessed food are nourished. Thus our strong walls protect us, that the temple might flourish. While I, on watch, guarded our grounds for villains and demons, which I knew and sensed even when they were scarcely seen, the lion dog bounded across the grounds and patrolled the temple from any noisome sound. I watched as villains tried to worry, shake the gentle vibrations of the sacred place. While on patrol, I spotted villains near. I'm bound to face them and shame their fear. My barking was marked in air by folding sigils, like monks marking ancient scrolls in vigils. These floated as if in marking barking signals. As lion dog, I marked the border. A sacred guardian protects the ancient order.
Sweet.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. My friends, thank you so very much that I could drink from the wisdom that you have with me. Thank you so very, very much. Namaskar. You are
Thank you
the
so
divine.
much. Yeah.
Namaskar,
Thank
Rick,
you.
for this sublime evening.
Well, thank you, one and
Thank
all,
you.
for sharing your brilliant truth. Please, my friends, go in peace. Shine in your day.
And with you all.